Good evening, everybody. We are calling to order a meeting of the Human Affairs Committee. It is May 19th at 2025, and it is 5:30 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. This meeting has been duly noticed in two places, including the city's website, in accordance with the requirements of RSA 91A.2, Roman numeral 2. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call.
All right, Alderman Chris Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Tim Senate is here. Alderwoman at Large Gloria Timmons. Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly, Vice Chair.
I'm here.
And Alderman Tom Lopez, Chair.
I am here as well. Alderman Timmons did reach out and say that she was going to have to attend remotely. I understood she had the link, so I guess we should keep an eye out and see if she can log in.
Also in attendance is Mike Jungers, Urban Programs Manager. Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director. I also see David Fredette. No? Okay.
No, he's here. He's here. I can't say treasurer in front anymore, but
That's right, yeah.
I'm thinking it.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Fredette.
All right. So public comment. Seeing none. Discussions and presentations. We have the CDBG allocations. Mike Jungers and, I guess Mike Jungers, you're it. Director Sullivan is there for moral support.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We have, as you see on the screen right there, a live scoring spreadsheet. There are a few of the projects that are listed under public facilities with which I can comment on the viability of the project should funding be awarded partially. But beyond that, I would just be available to ask compliance questions as far as the project's meeting HUD's requirements.
All right. So we have this big chart in front of us.
We do.
Different than the chart that I have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
We also would like to confirm that the allocation amounts, the top line right there, are our actual HUD allocations. We received our notice late last week.
Oh, nice. Okay. So our actual award is $652,953. I see that our budget appears to be,
Half that.
yeah. Okay, that's great.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I think it's worth noting to begin the discussion tonight that because of the situation relative to public facility awards, currently it is possible to award all projects the full requested amount. So certainly, I think discussion is welcome about those numbers, but technically funding is available to cover all the requests as I understand it. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The main concern is where do we place the extra money? Urban programs would prefer if that were to be allocated to the HIP program, but beyond that, your choice.
I'm not used to being in this position. Okay, so I guess I'll open up for before I open up for discussion, why don't you give us an overview of the HIP program?
Our housing improvement program, or the HIP program, the city provides to low, moderate income applicants that meet a few other qualifications. We fund and then also oversee and conduct having critical repairs done to their homes. They do have to be owner occupied, and they can be between 1 and 4 unit properties. Typically what we'll see is single family homes, and most of our repairs would be things such as boiler replacements, re-roofing, things that are more life safety and sustainability, just to make sure that the buildings stay inhabitable.
Okay. What has the utilization of that been? I know in the past, I think the public hasn't always been aware of that.
In my almost 4 years here, I would say for the first 2.5 years, we consistently would run out of funding. It is on a rolling basis for people that are applying. Over this past year, due to the loss of staff, primarily our intake person who also did a lot of outreach, we've seen a large drop in the number of people interested. So we're hoping with staffing coming up in the near future, we'll be able to really welcome some more applicants.
In terms of procedure and protocol, do we have to allocate additional funds tonight?
If we don't, it would be very helpful as far as HUD compliance for our 30-day notice period to be able to at least give some sort of formulaic idea of how remaining funds would be allocated. We can also literally keep them as unallocated. That's an allocation in and of itself to be used as a contingency. But regardless, I need to be able to hopefully prepare our draft annual action plan with every penny accounted for.
Okay, so I guess my opening comment would be, I would not mind putting money into the housing improvement plan. I would like to, at minimum, if the committee were willing, double the request for the winter warming station, because I already know that they basically operate on a shoestring budget, and I know that they're focusing just on the December to April timeframe, and I would like to see them be able to do the job they should do rather than the job they have to do. It is difficult to make specific allocations like that when staff aren't here to say, like, this is what we need. Hence my, do we have to do this right away question?
Yeah, sorry.
No.
Yep, I recognize Mr. Germans.
I was going to interject.
I'm
if
sorry.
You just can't see me. I know in the past what we've done is give some direction around like, hey, maybe the first X amount would go to this, or sometimes we've done it as a percentage. I understand it's complicated. Sometimes I feel like you're releasing funds with not necessarily what's knowing, but if we can give that direction, that generally has worked pretty well in the past.
Yeah, so I guess my opinion would be, because anything we do is subject to collective decision-making here. My opinion would be, we know we've lost a public health outreach worker, and that their role is going to end in the summer. We also know it's very hard to hold on to and engage overnight, warming station staff. And we also know that that's just the absolute end of the crisis intervention needed. We also may need a cooling station on periodic days, or may need other outreach efforts. So, I mean, my opinion is I kind of want to hear from Director Bagley, how could we benefit from this? Without necessarily just saying, oh, well, no other program matters,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in my discussions with Director Bagley, and also consistently with the other public service applicants, they all could use more money, not to be flippant about that, but they are trimming their level of service to the level of funding that they can attain across the board for the public service applicants. So I would be very confident that they would have a place to place those funds should they become available.
The 6 unsheltered people that I saw on my way here would agree. I mean, it's not like the problem isn't right here in front of us. And again, I advocated for it because I see the strategic value of the city taking the lead in this kind of situation. And I know from my own experience, if the city can't accomplish something or doesn't have anything to offer, other organizations don't listen to us. But if we're in a position where we lead and we can engage all of the other stakeholders, then we can apply much more impact than the amount the taxpayers are contributing would suggest. So, I mean, I think it's, for me, an investment. But I made my position clear. I want to see if anyone else has any ideas. Alderman Thibodeau.
Wow, promotion. What is the delta dollar value that we're talking about? I haven't heard that.
How much is left?
If
is
somebody
what you're
did say it,
asking?
I missed it. I apologize.
I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the 140? No.
So there are two numbers. Remember, throughout the evening, we're going to be talking about 2 separate buckets, one being the public facilities requests.
Okay,
In the public facility side of things, we have more monies available than we have requests.
okay,
So we have a delta there of approximately $89,000 that we could allocate to any number of projects. And
which we're discussing right now.
yes.
Okay,
On the public services side, we have a delta of about $61,000 of over ask. So there's $60,000 of money that needs to be cut from the current public service requests. I think it's also just worth pointing out too, on the public facility requests, those projects are very finite in nature. So with an example being the soup kitchen and shelter, they've requested $47,000. Giving them additional monies won't allow them to do other work because it's for that specific project. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, on this.
Yeah, there are several public facility applicants that are expecting to bring their own funds to these projects on top of whatever grant award they receive. The children's home, the soup kitchen would be one of those that's expecting to bring funds. One thing I do want to point out that is critical is the statutory maximum, the line in bold towards the top of your screen for the 97,000. That is the maximum that we can that can be allocated to public services according to HUD regulations. So unfortunately, we're not able to switch any overages from the public facility side to public services.
That was my next question.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Would the project that I have already been articulating, does that fall under public facilities, or is that more of a public service?
That would be a public service as they have applied for it.
Whoops, because I know they want a
That
facility.
was going to be my next question to you, Alderman Lopez, was if we doubled that, where would you pull it from?
I don't know, I would want to, so that's kind of where I want to hedge my bets a little bit, because I think they probably could come up with a plan for that. I mean, if they didn't ask for public facilities, the Elm Street School would be a eligible destination, wouldn't it?
Mr. Chairman, not in this particular instance. We cannot use the funds to apply them directly to a building that's owned by the city.
Okay.
To make those sorts of improvements. Now, if there were to be a third party, if they were to say, set up a shelter or a warming station with one of the other nonprofit partners, we could make public facility improvements that might be beneficial for that purpose and others for that entity.
So if, for example, we had a bunch of portable classrooms that we don't know what to do with, and we gave them to a nonprofit that wants to partner with us, then we would be able to make sure those things could be planted somewhere if we had enough funding from here.
I would say possibly. There are also some deeper regulations on what types of facilities can receive improvements. Typically, if it can be moved, it's not considered a facility under HUD regulations as a generality.
Okay. So given that the services is the one that we need to figure out how to navigate versus the one where we have the overages, should we just switch to that for now? And can we table the facilities part?
Technically, I don't
Well,
think
Mr.
anything's on or off the
Mr. Chair,
table
just
yet.
quickly too, I think we may be getting into a level of discussion relative to the legislation that needs to be removed from the table.
Okay.
So I wonder if maybe we move from the discussion, subject to your discretion, Mr. Chair, if we move into removing the other item from the table. And then I think it would be good to focus on public.
Okay.
Yes, the public service is really where the cutting has to happen. As far as public facilities, I'm sorry, I don't want to characterize the nature of the decision for you, but we do have more funds available for public facilities than we have requests. So if at all possible, I would hope that that could be allocated in a way with which I can prepare the draft action plan for posting.
Okay. So in order to not have literally everything on the table at the same time, would we be comfortable in confirming the allocations that have been made and then reserving the additional amount pending a further proposal?
I think we
Mr.
should
Chairman,
get to
however
new
you'd like to
business
dice it
first.
up, it's fine with us.
Sorry. One at a time. Mr. Jurgens?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, however you'd like to proceed through this is absolutely fine with us.
Okay, so to Clerk Senate, my purpose was to clear this off so we could get to the next thing.
Yeah, because both of these resolutions in front of us are actually under new business tonight.
Okay.
Nothing's on the table yet.
So we got to put them on the table to take them off the table, or can we just have the conversation?
I mean, we haven't put the,
Alderman Kelly? Alderwoman
we need to move through our agenda and get it in front of us so we can have the conversation.
Yeah.
I would say I'm hesitant to just say, yeah, fund them all, especially where you've brought up a point that you thought the warming station should use more. So I think we should talk through each project and just have quick discussion and not rush through it and try to, let's talk through all of them and then have discussion. Because if you are saying you want to double that, then maybe there is a different project that we don't necessarily want to fund. So that would be my
Okay, so
recommendation.
as far as the committee is concerned, we're done with the discussions and presentation. We would just want to move on to the communications, and then from there onwards?
I think that would be the best course, yeah.
Okay. So communications.
Communication has been received from Mike Jungers, Urban Programs Manager, regarding fiscal year 2026 HUD CDBG application summary.
Okay, there's no objection. I will accept the communication and place it on file. Unfinished business?
There is none.
New business, resolutions.
All right, first, we have R25-155, amending the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 2025 relative to the Community Development Block Grant CDBG. I will make a motion at this time to recommend final passage.
Mr. Chair, if
Yep.
I may, just quickly. This item will have a public hearing in front of you on June 16th. This is the Park Social Funding reallocation. So there's
Okay.
no need to discuss this evening unless you'd like to. There'll be a more full discussion scheduled, I think, for the 16th of June, at which we'll have the public hearing. So there's no need to discuss this in detail if you wouldn't like. You'll have another opportunity to do that.
No need on my side, other than, I just want to confirm that this is from the 2025 CDBG, and we're expecting to discuss the 2026?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is from last year's.
Just want to clarify, because this meeting's already confusing enough for me, and I'm in it. I think when some other people are watching it, they might be like, what are you doing now? So, is it best if we table it, or,
I would recommend tabling.
okay, and then we have the public hearing? Okay.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Move to table.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that's tabled.
All right, next up is R25-157, authorizing the mayor to apply and expend the Community Development Block Grant CDBG and Home Investment Partnership Program funds for fiscal year 2026. I will make a motion to recommend final passage.
Okay. Okay, so who wants to start? We don't need to table this one too, right? Or is this the one we're talking about?
It's the one we're
You
talking
Oh,
would-
well, we will need to, but don't we want to make allocations first?
Right.
Mr. Chair, if I may just quickly, procedurally, you'll make a motion to amend once we've developed allocations that you're comfortable with, and then you will table until June 16th, at which time we'll have the public hearing formally. But you will formally amend this evening.
Okay, and the motion is made, so we can have discussion at this point.
Gloria has her hand up.
Oh, Alderman Timmons has joined us.
Yes, I joined you a little while ago, but my question is, do you have to have roll call? Because I am on my cell phone, can't log on my laptop for some reason, but anyway, do we have to have a roll call? We didn't at the
Yep,
last one,
yep,
which is,
I didn't realize that you were actually in. So let's walk the clock back a little bit here and do it right on both. Let's entertain a motion to table R25-157 by roll.
155.
155 by roll call.
All right. Alderman Thibodeau?
Yes.
Alderman Senate votes yes. Alderwoman at Large Timmons?
yes.
Alderwoman at Large Kelly?
Yes.
And Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
Just to be thorough, I would also like to make a motion that we accept the communications from Mike Jungers, Urban Programs Manager, by roll call.
Very good. Alderman Thibodeau?
Yes.
Alderman Senate is a yes. Alderwoman Timmons?
Yes,
Alderwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman Lopez?
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
All right. So what is before us is R25-157. After the discussion, once we make amendments, and if we do make amendments, and then a motion that, we'll make the motion to table, which will be by roll call, but for now, we can at least entertain discussion. So who wants to be the first one to propose taking money from a nonprofit?
I think we should go line by line.
Go what?
Let's go line by line.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, the scenario on the right-hand side here is literally a proportional share of each of the requests. So you could fund all of them at this amount right here if you applied a 61% ratio to all of them. Not saying that's what you want to do, but it could be done.
It's a
Again,
very good
these-
starting point for the lazy legislator. I think there are some concerns about some specific programs, which might change the percentage a little bit. All right, so. If memory serves, did we reduce funding for Lamprey last year?
Yes, I think you did.
We kind of want to deprioritize that and let them have a shot at it. Do we know that all of these organizations, POW particularly, could even do their projects with partial funding? They look like they were like somewhat
I was
segmented.
going to pull up the minutes from that meeting, because I
Can you
asked.
say that again, Alderman Kelly?
I said, we asked it, I was going to pull up the minutes.
Okay. They were compartmentalized, though. If I remember right, they needed routers, they needed doors. No, they needed intercom, and then they needed a door.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Primarily within, well, almost exclusively within the public facility requests, I can speak to several of those projects and how they could be reduced in increments to allow, a full project to happen. Within the public service applications, I believe all of the applicants are planning on bringing other monies in per the discussion at the presentations, but beyond that, I can't really speak to the ease or difficulty they would experience with that.
Okay, I guess that seemed too easy. So in the services requests, there's the gym rental for PAL, Lamprey's Mobile Health Services, Economic Development Financial Empowerment Center, and then the warming station.
And court diversion as well.
Oh, am I missing that?
What was that again?
I believe that's what that first line is, correct?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, that's actually homelessness diversion and prevention from family promise.
Oh, that's right.
So basically an outreach program?
We can't see the top. I was like,
Yep,
what
that's
is
my
that?
fault.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Yep.
Alderman Lopez?
Alderman Kelly.
Can you remind us, I know that when we do these action plans, we have community goals specifically outlined every 5 years. Can you remind us what the goals are currently?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and Alderwoman. We are currently drafting the consolidated plan. So we're in the very finishing stages of our first draft for the consolidated plan, which will cover this year and the 4 subsequent years. The way that it's been presented in the past has been almost like a line item where the goals have been identified as primarily at the activity level, like what you're seeing here. We've taken a more comprehensive, consolidated approach. For example, one of the biggest identified needs in the city per our survey and HUD's data is homelessness and the prevention of homelessness. The mobile health unit also is addressing a need because there's quite a bit of overlap with the homeless community. So those two primarily, well, the winter warming station as well, stick out as things that are addressing what is going to unequivocally be our #1 goal. Some of the other goals, we're still in our final ordering of them.
Can you give us a preview?
We have ranked them or consolidated them under public facilities, for example. providing essential public services, is I believe the wording that we have right now, which would cover things that are more along the lines of what you'd see at, for example, the Plus Company or Opportunity Networks. What used to be parsed out among special needs and a lot of other subdivisions has been combined. Really, the homelessness and then the public facility improvements through our homeowner improvement program are two of the biggest needs.
Point of order, if I may.
Yep, Alderman Timmons?
Oh, thank you, Chairman. Now, the City of Nashville Economic Development, the Financial Improvement Center, do we really need to do the 50,000 with them?
I don't know if that's a point of order.
Oh, well, question.
But it's an opinion, and it's a starting point, which
I
I've been,
suppose you could have the opinion that it doesn't necessarily ladder up to homelessness, if that's our number one goal.
I would say it, in defense of that program, it doesn't entirely exclude it, in the same way that the homeless prevention program for Family Promise might be a little bit further on the continuum than the warming station, and then the PAL gym is probably a little further even on than that, because giving inner city kids an opportunity to engage athletically and giving low-income families a way to participate in the community is linked to better economic determinants. But again, that's a spectrum, and like you definitely, the financial empowerment might be somewhere between PAL and
Yeah.
probably between PAL and Family Promise. I don't know exactly how Lamprey falls, and I feel like that, depending on the urgency of care that they're doing, that could fall right on top of the warming station, if not on the other side of it.
I agree.
And I guess the other thing is that Lamprey does a great job, but there are other mobile health units too to think about. Like there's 3 or 4 that come to mind that do that work too.
Yeah, it's literally a issue for the parking department at this point when they go out on Main Street. But and it's also worth pointing out that at least Lamprey has the ability to recoup some of that leverage or that money. I think PAL might have a limited ability to, but I don't think the warming station is bringing anything back. And Family Promise, if I remember right, was very specific about where they get funding from. So that might be another way to kind of rank these. The percentage that was decreased to level reduce these, what was the amount?
It was a 39% decrease.
39%.
Basically what they did is realize that we only had enough to fund 61.34%, and then they just used that to reduce everyone's lines.
So would it be an idea mathematically to rank these in order and then figure out a percentage based on that for reduction?
I think that's great.
Mr. Chair, so you're suggesting
Just a,
a ranking,
yeah.
and then 100% of the first ranked project getting 100% of what it's asking for, the second ranked project getting 80% or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work out because they're all different numbers. but-
Right, so that's kind of why I'm asking.
I think the ranking was just a place to start.
Sure, okay.
Don't everyone talk at once.
So, I mean, my opinion is that we'd probably rank it like warming station is number 1.
I agree.
And yeah, if people want to speak up just as a sense of the body, we're not going to do a vote for every single one of these. Next, I would probably prioritize, in terms of homeless intervention, Family Promise. Then, I think Lamprey, then
Lamprey.
PAL, and then
And then
City of
Economic,
Nashua.
No, which City of Nashville? The Economic Development one, not the Warming Center.
No, that was already
Yeah,
ranked
that's one-
once.
that's
so you
number
can't
one.
do it twice.
That's
Okay.
number
That would-
1. I just wanted to make sure that we got them in order correctly, that's all.
Okay.
All right.
So, I mean, with that in mind, if we left the warming station where it was,
But to your point, is that enough? You said that you had background conversations that probably wasn't enough.
no, I think they can do more with more,
Yeah.
but I don't think they
So if
would.
it's our number 1, I should give him more. What if we give him 25,000? Just as a starting point. I'm just making things up for a minute.
I mean, looking at how much is coming out of,
27,000, right?
looking at how much is coming out of the Financial Empowerment Center,
Oh, that's for something.
that accounts for 30,000, so we could do that.
I think there were definitely concerns from this body around the Financial Empowerment Center, so if we want to, I think if we don't fund all of it, she can't do it, if I remember correctly. It's sort of a, she has to show it's viable, and then they match with her dollars. Is that
That's what
correct?
she said.
That's what, I thought that's what she said. Let me know if I'm wrong there.
No, she did say that.
Okay.
It
Any
was
objection
kinda
from
all or
Director?
nothing.
Sorry.
Thibodeau
Alderman
just had his
Thibodeau,
hand up.
thanks for being
For
patient.
clarification, so if item 5, or what we classified as item 5 there, line 16, so if that,
Zero's out.
so say if we zeroed it,
Yeah.
that whole entity collapses without any of this allocation? Is that
The
what we just
entity,
said?
the entity in question is a financial empowerment initiative that the Economic Development Department wants to begin. It's very well received by partners. The Continuum was literally talking about a very similar program. Public Health had a similar effort as well. And part of the idea is you go into the community and you engage people and you try to one-on-one help them with financial empowerment, either business starting or financial management, that kind of stuff. So it was well endorsed, at least in the community level, but it is a startup program, and some members of the committee weren't entirely sure what they were looking at. It wasn't presented strongly. Go ahead.
Unpopular opinion, I'm sure. But line items 1 through 4, in the year 2025, we have, education through Google, YouTube. I get it, I understand what the entity is, but none of the other 4 items, can I get assistance on YouTube or going to Charles Schwab, and just speaking with a financial advisor. Most banks and financial institutions have people that you can speak with. So my opinion would be to cut that entirely, and now we only have to worry about finding $31,000. That's my recommendation.
Director Sullivan?
Just briefly, I did confirm with Director Hannum that partial funding would be acceptable. It just increases the amount of other fundraising that would have to be done. So just for context, it's not all or nothing. Every little bit helps. Just want to make everyone aware of that.
Thank you.
I mean, I agree with a reduction on that line if it's our last ranked thing. We've done this, I've done this now 8 years, so it's like you kind of just have to start putting numbers in and seeing how it goes, and then
Yeah.
we don't make a vote till the end, so let's just start putting numbers in.
I was going to say, are we treating this as like a roundtable discussion
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point?
Yeah. Let's just
So that's why I
roundtable it
said,
and have a
make yourself heard as a sense of the body, because otherwise we can't have a vote on everything.
Yeah, if I could, I'll speak to the Financial Empowerment Center, just because I had raised some of those concerns in our last meeting, and I actually spoke to Director Hannum on the side about it a couple of days ago at this point. Last week's a blur. And, just articulated that I think that what she's trying to put together there is a very noble and worthy cause in the community. It's something that long-term I certainly would like to see. I think I said last time that it's something I could have benefited from when I was younger. I'm just having trouble here today when we're working with a lump sum bucket of, we'll call them 98,000 just to be round. I'm having trouble with something like that has moving parts here in our CDBG allocations and in our fiscal 26 budget versus the 4 other projects in front of us that will not see any benefit of our budget. I mean, we know even if we double the allocation for the warming station, we're still going to be probably looking at opioid abatement funds to make that work. I don't even know why I said probably. We're definitely going to be.
Yes.
So as as much as I hate to see anybody get nothing, if any one of these projects was going to be reduced to that degree, I feel like that's the one that I would have the easiest difficult time doing.
I think I understand your sentiment, because honestly, I am a huge proponent of the idea. I just don't know that CDBG is the right place to start trying to get that from it. So, and to the point that I was making earlier about the Continuum had a very similar suggestion, there is movement in the communities. I want to support the organizations that are looking in this way. And one of them was a bank that literally said, okay, well, we're trying to offer products for people who are currently unbankable. I think we do need to show that the city has something to bring to the table, but the bulk of the funding and the support for it is going to come, I hope, from the community. So I mean, no argument for me, especially as it was pointed out, that reduces the amount we have to reduce the other ones straight off the top. Can we look at a model for that?
So put 0 in at economic development.
And carry all the other figures over.
That just makes my PDF useless.
I know, thank you.
No, it's-
PDFs are useless, we talked about this
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
I have learned to embrace.
So your delta is now $11,894.83 at a reduction to 0.
Maybe we take a little off of mobile health and family promise to make that up.
Just as food for thought, I would take some off of mobile health and maybe a little bit off of the police athletic league, only because I'm confident that they could make it up. I know that family promise and mobile health are the much bigger totals though, so I can see your point there.
I mean,
I'm just putting numbers in literally
I
to
know.
have discussion.
This is the worst meeting of the year because you don't ever want to say that these things that people are bringing forward aren't thoughtful, important investments in our city. And so it's so hard for us because we have to make the numbers work, but
Yeah,
if
this
we
is
were.
easy mode too, because we don't have to worry about all the facility stuff, and we
I
only
know,
have
it's
this
pretty
many
close,
to
right.
go from, so.
I mean, I guess my question here is back to our lens of homelessness. Is gym rental close enough in that we want to allocate it? Because if you got rid of that, then everyone gets their full amount, and we have a little bit left, right? We zero it
If I
out?
remember correct,
Zero it out for me for a second.
I'm looking for that half of the
Our Delta's
application.
still 11.
That gets us to,
$492
Green.
surplus.
Yeah, you like a green surplus.
I sort of personally like the equity of bringing down the others a little bit evenly, but I just wanted to show for context that it is our 4th ranked thing. And if we don't do it, we can give everybody 100%. But that's not giving any more to winter warming.
No, could we look at putting both the Family Promise and the Lamprey at like 38.5, and then everything else that's remaining into the police gym rental?
So
We're still at a,
That was a lot more than I thought it would be.
it's going to be it's going to be
Just under
$3,500. It's going to be $3,500, right?
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
what's going to be $3,500?
Well,
Oh, we would
Well,
only
right here.
fund
That's
at
what would be left
3,500.
over
I
for
see what you're
PAL,
saying,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's better than nothing.
And I think this figure is half the year's gym rental.
It is 1 year's gym rental, I believe is,
I have this lovely application packet in front of me because I thought it
You know,
might
you
help.
can use Excel to do that.
yes, actually, I'm going to double check that now.
You don't want to mess with your promise, I gotcha.
So then it would fund PAL at $34.92. If you were to reduce these to 37, it would fund PAL at $6,400, which is more than half of the request.
I would like to see Family Promise reduced, well, I don't want to, but I am willing to see Family Promise reduced to 37, and then maybe Lamprey to 36, and see if that gets them closer to, if we can get them to like 2/3, easy.
Yeah, That gets them to
74.92.
7,500 almost. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every penny counts for both programs. Family Promise isn't going to bring revenue back in, so that's why I'm more willing to say, okay, Lamprey, like, let's, they did say they primarily work with people who are or at least initially, they don't have health care, but, I mean, it's outreach, so you would be enrolling them in healthcare, and then you'd have them as a patient. So over the life of the person, there, I would imagine many of them will think of Lamprey and be like, okay, this is where my new doctor is, or that nice lady was, and then they'll make it back well on the back end.
And that still leaves us, I do have the application here. It says PAL seeks CDBG support to offset $12,387.78, 50% of the annual lease cost for the St. Pat's Gym. So it's actually still putting us at a little above a quarter still, which I know isn't everything, but again, something's better than nothing.
We also
No,
haven't addressed if we want to put winter warming station up anymore. I know they haven't asked for it, but if we feel strongly about it, I know it's been something that's been very talked about in this chamber. So if we want to do that, then we have to reduce further.
So that's where I have a dilemma, because I think the two biggest pots to reduce further are either the healthcare outreach program for people or the prevention. And either one of those could easily, like, particularly when it comes to individuals, healthcare is usually a major determinant of losing your shelter and your space. And similarly with families, if you don't have, Doug out there to make sure that they're able to get ahead on their Eversource bill that's now coming true, that could definitely tip all the dominoes over. So if we try too hard to give more money without another source, I was particularly excited about it because I was thinking that facilities-wise, maybe they could have a real mop instead of like a mop head attached to a broom, or more toilet paper, stuff like that.
Can you actually, to that point, so public service is nothing capital, it's not an actual thing that is being repaired or built. Can you just tell us the difference, remind us?
Yes, public services have to provide benefit to 51% or more LMI individuals through providing a service without really any, we can't provide equipment, for example, unless that can be expensed down to zero. We can't do supplies in most cases. So really, the main thrust of it is to pay staff salaries, stuff like that, for these support services.
Now, without having to speak for her, but just because I don't have the application, how is Director Bagley identified, so I ended up with both names. How did she identify the facilities part of that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear.
How would she use the money for the facilities in that area?
Director Bagley, this is a public service request, and the particulars of that are funding for staff under CDBG, staff costs.
Okay.
But I don't think we charge ourselves for the facility. The facility is Elm Street, right?
Right.
So there's no way to
Yeah.
get it as a public facility request.
Yes, and we couldn't pay for that as the publicly owned building.
Right.
So I know the
I know
opioid abatement,
everybody out.
the opioid abatement fund is a source. I'm still very leery of any situation where we don't know how much exactly is going to come in. I also don't think it's like wise for us to pigeonhole ourselves by using that too predominantly, because not everybody who's unsheltered actually is using opioids. So I think it would be better to have more well-rounded use of it. So if there were a way to use, extra facility funds for something they were paying for that's a facility, or, if we had extra service funds, which we don't, CDBG is useful because while it has a lot of strings attached, it's not opioid specific.
Back to your question at the beginning about whether we funded Lamprey last time. Do we know that?
I could find out. I think it was a question of whether there was a reduction in the ask, and it would take me a minute.
Okay.
I'm almost positive we reduced it.
I think I remember that too, but it'd be interesting to.
Well, ignore the screen for a few minutes then, because
Okay,
I'm gonna have to
won't
try and
Yeah.
find it, so.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out today's situation as presented by nonprofits and community organizations. There's also some value in making sure that we're kind of tending the garden year by year. So if we keep nixing a program, we might want to like recognize that we're putting them in a spot.
Alderman Thibodeau has it.
Alderman Thibodeau?
I understand the desire to add more to that bucket for the warming station, but that is the figure that they requested.
Yes.
So, I mean, would it be great? Sure. What I would like to see would be better outreach to the community to let them know that they would need a mop, not on a broom handle. And I would almost wager they'd probably have a mop in a day. If the community knew that they were mopping the dirty floor of the gym with a dirty mop head attached to a broomstick. I get the desire, but I don't know if everybody else we're cutting money off of, but they are, at the moment, fully funded for what they requested.
Yeah, we might be chasing a rabbit hole a little bit here. And with regards to, this is the part we have to do for figuring out how to divvy it up. When it comes to the other part, we can meet the allocations we have right now and then could let it ride a little bit, table it, and then see if somebody comes back with an actual facilities request.
Mr. Chairman, we're not currently soliciting any input or applications. That's not really on a revolving basis as we've done it. So the public facilities applicants, it's kind of a one and done for the fiscal year.
Okay, that's fair.
Another scenario could be to just take out empowerment and then allocate it equally like their original, whatever was left.
You said take out environment?
No, we said
Empower.
zeroing out empowerment's $30,000. If we take the scenario one,
Yep.
take out your 30,000.
Take this out,
Yeah,
so I've taken it out here.
yeah, I want to see it in your scenario one. What does it do to the allocation?
So if I remove this?
Yes. Meaning, I want to take what's left and equally allocate it.
So it creates 30,000 of funds that can be, you want to split this between the remainder?
Divided by 4.
Right, like how you,
Proportionally?
correct, like how you did it for this one. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm giving you all the math.
I'm going to unplug my
75,
computer for a minute, I think.
Oh, see, now you're telling
76
me what I went through.
76.50 and
It's very
change?
stressful.
So you'd like to see the 30,000 equally applied across all projects?
Right.
Okay. Division problem. Before I do that, though. Okay, yeah, I can do that.
It does run the risk that we ran into where the projects are not
I
all
mean,
the
we don't
same
have to do
size.
it. I was just thinking about,
No, I think it's fine to do, it's just gonna take me a second to figure out the math. Okay. Please feel free to talk amongst yourselves while I do this.
I was gonna say, Alderman Lopez, how would you feel about a small exchange? I just ran a number here with the last scenario that we had come up with, where we had fully reduced financial empowerment center, level funded warming station, and then reduced PAL a little bit. If we upped city of warming station, it's not much, to $20,000, then if you wanted to reduce Family Promise and Lamprey a little bit more, if you split the difference evenly, it's a further reduction of $12.75 to each of them.
it's not that much.
So what I have in front of me is just going down from the top, $35,725 for Family Promise, $74,9295 for Nashua PAL.
Alderman Sennett, say that number one more time, I'm
For
sorry.
the Family Promise,
For the family promise is 35,275.
$35,725. For PAL, $74,9295. Lamprey is $34,725. Economic, financial empowerment is still zero. And then I brought up winter warming to 20,000.
Yeah, that will work.
I mean, literally, I know it's unsolicited per se because Director Bagley gave us her number, but we could add that specifically for community outreach, meaning get the community to support and donate things.
It could go a number of different ways. My personal perspective on it, even though it's not a gigantic lift, is just sort of putting our money where our mouth is in terms of the demands and the asks that we've made in this chamber in regard to that winter warming station. They've come back and we're already discussing it, which I feel is at least at least proportionately part of their ask. So now we can do our part and sort of move the ball forward from there.
And Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yep.
specifically, any increased allocation to their public service would have to be in staff costs or expendable supplies only.
Okay.
So for example, that could not be used for an outreach campaign or anything along those lines.
It looks like that's what they primarily have those funds allocated for.
Yes.
So, I mean, again, it's not a huge lift in the grand scheme of things,
Certainly.
but that just means they can get more coffee, more sugar,
Enough sugar.
enough sugar. That
Yes,
was the big
yes.
problem last year, yeah.
Okay. How do people feel about the Alderman Senate amendment?
Well, let Matt finish the math I had
Yeah.
him do.
I would never want to jump ahead of Director Sullivan.
He hates me so
Steam.
hard right now.
Rain Man. Alderwoman Timmons has her hand up.
Alderman
No,
Timmons?
CDBG.
Well, thank you. I think Alderman Senate idea and his figures is more spot on. One is because we do need more money in that Women's Center, and they are going to have the Women's Center on Elm Street for one more year. They got another building for the second year. So this is the last year it's going to be over at Elm Street. So, and there was a lot of donations. He was correct. There was quite a bit of donations to the Mormon Center on top of what the city had allocated for them. So he was right. That's all I'm saying. I agree with him. In other words, I agree with.
Yeah, and I think we're in a dilemma here where we have to be able to put the resources where they'll count, and we might have a little bit more resources than were initially anticipated on one side, but what's really needed, like, I think, at the end of the day, over and over again, is enough to do a drop-in center all year round, and if not an emergency shelter. And that money, we don't know where that comes from.
And that might be year two, by the way, Tom, because I think that's the premise for the following year.
It was the premise for last year, if they had money.
No, it's actually.
They were
actually
clear
have
when
a
they
building.
presented, like, start with this.
No,
We
they
just
actually have a
yeah.
building.
Yeah.
Elm Street, they have a building in 2027. So next year's 2026, the last year for the Warmans, this year. But 2026, there's another building that they're actually going to have like a year-round center, warming and cooling center.
Is this something covered at the health department, at the board?
Yes.
Okay. I need to pay more attention. I missed the last two.
Actually really close to what Alderman Senate said.
So these would be, new allocation would be as follows in the, again, you would be removing
And then equally.
the 30,000 and then equally, or proportionally splitting
Correct.
those across. So you would go from,
Yeah.
again, here it was 24, it would go to 35, 7 would go to 11, 24 would go to 35, and so on.
So it's pretty close to your amendment, but I like yours a little bit better because it gives more to the warming station, which we said is priority one.
Okay. Are we ready to pick scenario 1 or scenario 2?
Oh, there's like 5 scenarios. Call it the Tim Senate
Literally
scenario.
labeled scenario 1 and label 2 is what I mean.
Yeah, but we didn't even talk about those. Scenario 1 was their original to us.
I'm just gonna close and restart this one really quick, 'cause,
I have it in front
Did
of
you
me
get
if you
the
need the
answer on how much
figures.
they asked for last year?
I
know
no,
I
I got
distracted you.
distracted with a new problem I was asked to solve.
All right, so then I would like to see if there's support for amending as Alderman Senate proposes. Can you make the proposal and read your numbers?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to.
And this will be by roll call as well.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to amend the fiscal year 2026 CDBG public service allocations as follows. Family Promise of Southern New Hampshire will receive $35,725. National Police Athletic League Gym Rental will receive $7,492.95. Lamprey Healthcare would receive $34,725. City of Nashua Economic Development Financial and Power Center would receive $0. And City of Nashua Division of Public Health Winter Warming Station would receive $20,000 for a total allocation of $97,942.95.
All right, we've heard the motion for the amendment. Any further discussion? All right, clerk, call the roll.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Senate is a yes. Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
5 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, so we have that amendment. With regards to the second part, the facilities,
Yes.
Hold up.
Alderman Kelly.
I believe in previous years, we're going more roundtable here, that we've also said, like, if it came in over allocated, or if there was, like, if a project doesn't use all of it, can we tell you what to use it towards? Or do we have to do it formally?
We can, our citizen participation plan caps us at 20% variance for a substantial amendment. So within that, it's easy to do within 20%, but difficult beyond that.
I would love to see within that 20% variance, if things come in under, that it goes to the warming station.
I'm sorry, that wouldn't be possible because that would be moving it over into a public service, and we're statutorily capped on that.
Huh? I thought you just said we could.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, I may have misunderstood your initial question then.
I think the question that Alderman Kelly was asking was, in the past, this is our HUD allocation, but in the past, they've then allocated more. And
Or
if-
we said if it came in over, put some here.
Oh,
But it may
I'm
have
sorry.
been, I may have been remembering a scenario where we didn't have our number yet.
I think we didn't have a
That
number.
is correct, I apologize.
And if people come in under budget, we actually still have to reallocate it through legislation. That's correct, right? Like, that's what the public hearing is coming up about. I think we did.
From 2025.
Yeah, the HUD allocation that's in this spreadsheet, that's our final number, so there's no modifications that are expected beyond that.
Yeah.
The public services, they're going to be awarded every cent to the, that'll be to the penny. So really, the only variance with project delivery is going to be in the public facilities, and it's always the goal to come in under, or really to give them the best value as close to the budget number as possible. But there is sometimes substantial funds remaining.
Okay. I think I just got myself confused because we've definitely in the past said, oh, if anything more comes in. And I think it was because we didn't have the
Understood?
numbers yet.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
All set, Alderman Kelly?
I think I am. Just
Okay.
needed to talk through it. Thank you.
So just checking on the next order of business here. We will have to table this now that we've amended it, but should we approve at least the allocations that are there and then leave it open to say further presentation could be made by applicants? I was specifically thinking if Director Bagley has a better plan than just putting it all into the home ownership program or home improvement program. Alderman Kelly.
I believe he told us that the applications are closed. They can't apply for more. Is that correct?
That is correct. Our rental improvement program and our housing improvement program are the only ones that accept applicants on a rolling basis.
So can we just suggest to take the additional and split it between the two and just, then it's available?
That's the plan that they've proposed up here, right? Marked in yellow?
Is that what that is?
I would hesitate to call that a specific proposal. It really is just placeholder numbers. You know, that's an objective thing, kind of far out of my purview. I will say that as far as being able to get the funds into the community, the housing improvement program is the quickest way to do that.
Okay.
We are on, I believe, our third rental improvement program applicant in my time in the city of almost 4 years.
If I could,
Alderman Kelly?
can you talk about the success of the rental improvement program and how much action it has had?
Yes, it has had very limited interest because although it is kind of enticing from a financial standpoint, it would rate lock those units, at least during the time when they applied. And what the feedback we've received is that the property owners would rather have the flexibility to adjust their rent to the market conditions,
And take this one.
than take the conditions of the loan.
I'm wondering if Director Sullivan is going to answer the question I'm about to ask, is what's in that fund currently?
I actually can't answer that question tonight. I don't have that number in front of me. And quite frankly, we're in the midst of a significant reconciliation process around both our HIP and our RIP programs, and so I'd be hesitant to answer this evening. But I think Mr. Jungers spoke to the lack of deployment of those funds. And frankly, because of the impediments that exist to deployment, I would be hesitant to allocate significant resources into it. $30,000, I think, is an appropriate amount, albeit maybe not a recommendation, but we would like to put money in there, but I'm hesitant to put $75,000 in there based on the difficulty deploying those funds in the past.
So you wouldn't like it if I zeroed it and put 180 in owner-occupied housing improvement?
I am comfortable putting monies into the owner-occupied side. I mean, in a way, this is a recommendation in a sense from us. I mean, I'll go as far as to say that. I mean, we know that the owner-occupied monies are deployable. We use them frequently. There are often urgent needs that arise. Rental improvement is not as easily implemented, but we would not mind putting new funds in. We have new leadership, obviously, in the department, so I think it's possible that we would find better ways to work with renters to use those monies. And then radon mitigation and testing, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think this is really just it's a miscellaneous bucket that we're putting a little more funding into because of the unpredictability around that process and the need to have monies on hand to do it.
That is exactly correct. In addition, our lead program, which is substantial, has frequently benefited from a little bit of extra money that comes out of our housing improvement program in order to pay for the totality of work needed under lead abatement and to go a little bit less into the owner's pockets for those funds. So it is kind of a force multiplier in that respect.
I guess
For
I'd
context, I would also just point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, the next motion is to table this. So we would take it off the table at the next Human Affairs Committee meeting. So we don't need to have all of the details figured out yet.
I would like to continue the conversation.
Clearly, because there is also another meeting coming.
I understand, I'm going to
Some of-
that
some of
meeting,
this
but I
can be
still want
offline as well.
to spend the time that we should be spending on this. I'm asking questions about it.
Yeah, I'm going to second, at the very least, we got the public services ducks in a row. I'd like to have the ducks in a row for the public facilities as well, so that when we're going to the public hearing, we have the information that the public is going to be speaking on, not speak on this and then we're going to revisit it.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
As a point of personal privilege, that is not what I was suggesting. What I was saying is that we have a proposal on the screen for what's being discussed right now, and trying
And I
to
have a
zero out another balance or another budget isn't something on the screen. If we accept the model that's here, we can go back to it if more information presents itself later. That's what I was stating. Alderman Kelly?
I just respectfully disagree. We should go through this just as much as we go through the ones above and have the discussions around it. And I personally am hesitant. I hear what you're saying. I know this is your purview, but like, if our goal is to make sure that if homelessness is our number one thing, and you can more rapidly get owner-occupied housing improvement funds into the community, then I'd rather put more there than put it in a program that you're telling us people are hesitant to use.
So just to
Even if it
clarify
was
what you're
half.
suggesting, Is there another proposal or another bucket that we can change?
Yes, we can change those bottom three.
Okay, because I thought it was already stated that most of them we couldn't.
Those we can change. So we could say 180 owner-occupied improvement and nothing to rental. We could say that. I don't know that that's what they want, but that's why I was asking the questions around those programs. And they come up frequently every year, and we have these discussions around them, because sometimes HUD money has a lot of ties to it, and some people are hesitant to use it. But back around the lens of homelessness, that's why I was asking about rental improvement, because that's been rickety for a couple of years.
Could I ask a question to the presenters real quick? Just under the proposed, I'm sorry, I'm just going to call it a recommendation. Under the proposed recommendation that we have in front of us, that leaves a variance of $11,590. No? Oh, you changed
That's there,
figures on me that
yeah.
I don't have changed.
We usually do a contingency. Is that what your question was going to be?
Yes.
I was wondering if you intended to zero out the variance and just utilize all funds available.
Mr. Chair, specifically, that is the request that I'm making this evening. Even if the numbers are, have some elasticity and are open to further debate down the road, I'd be hesitant to publish a draft action plan without at least tacit approval from the Human Affairs Committee. So those numbers are filled in as placeholders, and to your direct question, yeah, the variances, we're just aiming for 0 on that.
Okay. So really, it's just those three buckets that we're moving things around between. And
I
it
have
sounds
another
like the
question.
appetite is really just two.
I'm talking a lot. No, you keep going. I
No,
have
no,
my
no,
hand up.
I'm all set, Alderman Kelly.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I just had a question on radon. So that's what, the radon number is very specific. What, is that just because you did your 2 numbers and that was what was left over? I was like, is there a specific project? It's like, it's down to 95 cents.
So there are, I know that the children's home's been taken care of, but Mary Sweeney Home has yet to go through the entirety of that process, and that is a large concrete institutional structure. And yeah, I basically put more money in that just to make sure there's something left over, because I'm expecting an expensive mitigation at Mary Sweeney Home that could knock a significant hole in the already allocated $75,000 from the current year.
Okay.
But that number is not specific, is
But-
that correct, Mike?
It was just
Correct. It is really just as much about me not wanting to put $195,000 in the housing improvement program in front of the committee as it is a particular thing.
Any follow-up?
I've talked a lot.
Alderman Thibodeau?
So is that a correct statement? They're the only ones that have movement
Are those
or
the
that were
ones?
contemplating moving? Is anything highlighted in yellow and the rest are remaining? Is that the goal or the intent?
We
Not
can-
have to, but is that the,
Technically, we can do whatever we want, but if
I-
we were to fund all of the requests from the community, which would make the most sense, and then that's what we usually do is put what's left into the city programs. But
and the reason I ask is because I have a question about the children's home. This is only my second year, but isn't that exactly what they requested money for last year, was for a security system?
and we didn't fund it,
We did not?
correct? Is that right?
If I could speak on that.
Yes.
So-
Thank you for addressing the chair.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Last year, they were awarded funds for essentially the same system. As the first year requiring radon testing as part of the environmental review process, radon was discovered in their facility in such a way as to present an immediate risk and liability to their organization. At that time, we didn't have the radon mitigation program stood up, and so we had no city funds available to pay for mitigation. So they went into their own funds and paid, I believe it was over $40,000 to have the mitigation installed. Now, those funds were funds that they had earmarked for their owner's portion of the totality of the work. So the number that you see before you is a result of me working with them as a previous project administrator to fund the difference. And so this year's allocation, if awarded, and last year's allocation would sum up to be able to get their project done.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Good. Any proposals from members of the committee?
Yes, may I, Chair?
Alderman Timmons?
Yes, I don't believe we should be giving a lot to the children home because they just got a big sum of money from the gaming. But Mary Sweeney, however, have not, they're on their own. They need the money, if any of the three. Mary Sweeney has been in dire need for a very, very long time. They don't have the funds that come in, they don't have the staff, they don't have a lot of things. So if any money should be given to anybody, I think it should be going to Mary Sweeney, the senior home.
Okay, and it was pointed out at the beginning of the meeting that we have the money to fully fund these projects as presented, but we could reduce funding if that were identified as desirable. And then those last three categories, Alderman Timmons, I don't know if you can see, radon improvement, radon testing and mitigation, City of Nashua, no, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm looking at the wrong ones. This is
Owner
different than that.
occupied housing, rental approval, and radon.
Yep, sorry, I have a different PDF.
Okay, I have to pull it up because I'm on my phone.
So those are the three that there's interest in reviewing closely, I believe, and determining if we want to put, where we want to put more money.
I think we should put more money in Mary Sweeney.
How much?
Is there a proposal for how much?
I'm looking at, right now, they asked them for, is that 25,000 or 35,000? I'm on my phone, so I'm
It's
pulling this up.
35,000. Yep.
Right. So I think if we give them another 5,000, if that's possible.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Jergen?
if I could. So these funding amounts have been developed along with the scope, a particular scope of work for this year's projects. And so off the top of my head, we would actually, in a situation such as that, be trying to find a place to spend money without having previously planned for it.
What is involved in having to spend the money? Would they have to give us an explanation of what they're doing? Would we have to change public hearings? Or they just have to be like, thanks? we'll use
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's, there really is no objective technical hurdle to us doing that. That is outside of how we've operated in the past as far as developing the project, having these budgets put together, and then seeking the funding for them.
Alderman Kelly?
So just a thought, I hear your point, Alderman Timmons. If the radon mitigation is something that Mary Sweeney's gonna have to go under, we could potentially put more money in there in case it's more costly, and then that could potentially support them.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there a proposal on the floor?
Yes, I'm gonna make that proposal that we allow that recommendation that we put the 5 extra thousand into Mary Sweeney and also the balance going to the radon.
Director Sullivan? I think I saw you
Mr.
first,
Chair,
but
if we could ask the motion maker for clarification.
Yeah, I'm not fully.
Because, we currently have a delta of $89,000, and I'm hearing the balance going into radon mitigation, and 5,000 additional going to Mary Sweeney. I think we're giving, frankly, a strong recommendation to the committee that over-allocating monies to a finite construction project is perhaps a problematic precedent to set. And so I think we would advise against giving additional monies to Mary Sweeney Home though I hesitate to look at Mr. Fredette in the audience as I say that. But these are finite construction projects, and over-allocating funds is something I think we're a little cautious about doing. But to the point prior, if we'd like to allocate additional radon testing mitigation monies, perhaps more funding would be appropriate to do, 10,000, 15,000. And we would need to know which bucket you would like to take that from, whether it be rental improvement or owner-occupied housing. So perhaps if Alderwoman Timmons could just clarify, we can certainly make those modifications.
Alderwoman Timmons?
I think that we should take the money from owner occupied, not from rentals.
Okay. Does that satisfy your concerns? Put it
Mr.
into
Chair,
rentals- Into radon?
Mr. Chair, what would the number be perhaps?
Alderman Timmons, do you have a specific number?
And I don't have a specific number. Let's crunch some numbers.
You were initially trying to move an extra 5,000 into Mary Sweeney without
Yes.
them specifically having a project for it. And I think the conversation moved to, well, we could allow extra money in the radon program for Mary Sweeney so that if they do need additional support, it could come from there.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
So Director Sullivan, if we moved 5,000 into the radon, would that cover it, or
I believe,
asking you to
Mr. Chairman,
completely guess?
I believe we would prefer about 10,000 or more for that number.
10,000 or more, you said?
For
Yes.
radon total?
Yeah, yes, that's what you're suggesting?
And in my hesitation really, or really the ultimate concern about that is we had projects canceled last year because we didn't have the mitigation funds already in hand, in a process that would have to move very quickly. So that really is my fundamental thinking on having the extra funds in the radon bucket.
What if we make that 15,000? Which is essentially
Would that be,
5,000.
yes.
And then my personal preference is we move it from rental improvement, not owner occupied. So make that 25.
Since you're making the motion, Alderman Timmons, do you have a strong disagreement with using rental improvement instead of owner occupied?
I don't like the rental improvement. I'd rather have it owner occupied.
Yeah, she agrees.
Okay. Well, why don't we just vote on each motion separately? The first motion would be the original Alderwoman Timmons motion to move it from owner occupied instead of rental.
How much are you moving into where?
I'm sorry, can you clarify? Because I think what she just said was contradictory to that.
Okay, Alderman,
And it's just not
Alderwoman
looking
Timmons,
at
did you
it.
want owner occupied or do you want rental?
No, owner occupied. I do not want it to move from rental.
Okay. So why don't we just start with just that? All those in, well, by
Sorry.
roll call,
What is the motion again? I need to write this down.
we're not going to do the amount yet. We're just going to say, do we want to pull from the allocations suggested for the owner occupied rather than the rental?
So we're, by roll call, stating which bucket we'd rather draw from.
So for first, it'll just be yes or no. And a yes means yes, pull it from owner occupied, no means no.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So roll call?
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman restate. Yes is,
Yes is from
Take it
owner
from owner
occupied.
occupied.
and then no is from rental.
No is just don't take it from owner occupied, and we'll do the
Okay.
next one next.
Alderman Senate's a no. Alderwoman Timmons,
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly,
No.
and Alderman Lopez.
No.
2 yeas, 3 noes.
Okay, the next vote is just a positive vote to move $5,000 into the radon fund from the rental fund.
All right, hang
No,
on, please.
describe that.
I'm out of paper. I'm pulling up a document.
Just for context, while he's typing, the rental improvement program is currently at 30,000. It was the one, Mr. Jurgens, that was identified as not having as much success as the owner occupied,
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
because essentially trying to use the program meant your rent got frozen.
Right.
That's correct.
I would totally love it if there was a way to get it to work, but
Yeah.
So positive on this vote is you agree to move 5,000 from rental improvement to radon testing.
correct.
All right, so this motion is by whom?
Me?
And you are moving to?
Reduce the allocation on rental improvement to 25,000 and increase the allocation for radon testing and mitigation to 14,000, I can't read that, 455 and 95 cents. All other allocations are 100%.
All right, so reduce rental improvement to 25,000 and increase radon to 14,455, 95. Okay, I have the motion.
All right, please call the roll.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Senate is a yes. Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly, Alderwoman Kelly, sorry,
Yes.
and Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
5 yeas.
All right, so that amendment is made. Are there further amendments?
Mr. Chair, no, subject to confirmation of the committee via an amending motion overall to allocate an additional $50,000 to the owner-occupied housing improvement program. You haven't affirmatively stated that that's what you want to do.
that's
Again,
right.
that's absolutely fine if it's part of a larger motion to formally amend overall, but we do need to clean
Can you
that piece
just
up.
amend my motion to say that? I'm sorry. I missed that part.
Since we're doing roll call, we should just make the amendment.
Yeah, we'll
All
make
right.
the, do you want to make the motion?
Sure. Move to amend by adding 50,000 to owner-occupied housing improvement. Amend my amendment.
Any
Thank you.
further discussion, or can we do
Yourself.
roll call?
All right.
Roll?
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Senate is a yes. Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
5 yeas.
Thank you.
All right, so we've amended that. Any further amendments anyone would like to make? Seeing none, we could table at this point.
So moved.
All right.
Roll call?
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Senate is a yes. Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
4 yeas, 1 nay.
You can stay here.
Just being difficult.
Good.
All right, so that is tabled. New business ordinances,
There are none.
tabled in committee,
There is none.
except for what was just tabled. Public comment? Any members of the public wishing to comment? Alderman, or Director Sullivan?
Just thank you on behalf of the department for the work tonight. Always gets smoother every year, and we'll be back on the 16th of June to certainly respond to any public comments that might take place and work with the committee on any amendments that need to be made. And I just want to thank Mike and Nicole and the Urban Programs Department again for their work on this. Thank you.
Yep, thank you to both of you, and thank you for doing the extra work for helping us do the calculations and everything.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Kelly.
I was just going to echo, thank you for running the spreadsheet and dealing with the math scenarios. I appreciate that.
All right.
Do I need to make a motion?
Any remarks by the alderman? I guess since people are watching, the Tree Shoots Block Party will be June 14th. Feel free to come to Ash Street from 1 to 5. Alderwoman Kelly.
Move to- move to-
Mislabeled you every single time, I don't know why. Once it was in my head, I could not get it out, so I apologize.
Move to adjourn.
All right. Roll call?
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Senate is a yes. Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
5 yeas. 6:54.
All right, we are adjourned.